Hello, everybody, and welcome to Monday's lecture. I'm sorry I can't be there with you in person, but we'll try to make this work. What I have for you today is a few slides going through the conclusion of the Theogony, just by way of explanation, and then a small assignment that you'll turn in through Blackboard. As soon as you're done the PowerPoint lecture, and after you go through the text and do the assignment, you'll complete it in a Word or PDF document and then upload it under assignments on the Blackboard site. So when we left the Theogony, we saw that Zeus had just overthrown his father's rule with violent force, using those pesky thunderbolts, and is supported in that new rule by the brothers who gave him those thunderbolts. Zeus has also punished those who support his father, including the sons of Iapetos, Menoetius, Atlas, and Prometheus. There was an extended presentation of Prometheus' story in the Theogony, partly, I think, because of its Prometheus' connection to humankind. We have a couple of stories in there, explanations of the way in which humans relate to the divine through sacrifice and through the ways in which Zeus, as well as the other gods, enter into human existence, not exactly by accident, but not necessarily benignly. We then saw that Zeus frees those who punished his father, who were punished by his father and by his grandfather. And then we ended class on Friday with a discussion of the terrible conflict with the Titans, as Zeus asserted his complete control. Part of the consequence of that fury and power, as Zeus sort of lets everything loose and turns the 100-handers on the Titans, is their subjugation in Tartaros, but also sort of bringing the entire cosmos to the brink of being exploded. There's an extended discussion of Tartaros, a description of how the Titans are subjugated in sort of this underworld, description of the geography of Tartaros, but all of it is expressly under the will of Zeus, as we see in the text, and it's guaranteed by those same 100-handers who were so instrumental in Zeus's final victory. So these 100-handers are the guardians of Tartaros, the guardians, if you like, of the Titans, leaving Zeus to be in power in the world above. There is a single obstacle to Zeus's complete control, this giant Tufoius, but he's quickly dispatched in a similar fashion. So as Zeus comes into power and orders the universe, it is guaranteed by violence, right, and the threat of violence. But when he comes into power, he's counseled and advised to be a good ruler, that is, not to continuously assert control through the exercise of violence, but really just through the threat of violence. And so we have a series of Zeus's marriages through which the god of the cosmos, the king of gods, brings other important gods and other important ideas into existence. So his first wife is Metis. Metis is an interesting word. It means cunning intelligence, sort of the faculty of the human spirit, if we were talking about humans, which would contrive a plan, carry out a plan, which would be able to be wise enough to see the consequences of certain kinds of actions. So Zeus marries her, but then realizes that Metis's children represent a threat. And so he eats Metis and puts her in his stomach. And for the Greeks, that is in fact where your intelligence is, sort of in your gut. And so when Zeus consumes Metis and sets her in his stomach, he is literally owning intelligence, owning sort of careful willfulness. And out of that union, Athena is born out of his head, Athena, the goddess of wisdom. He then marries Themis. Themis is a word in Greek that means sort of the right thing to do, or rightness as an idea. And from his marriage with her, the cycle of the seasons and things that order human existence are born. And you see the mention there of the fates, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, those three old crones who share the eye. That's the idea behind them, that they measure human existence, give you the thread of life. So his marriage with rightness sets boundaries, if you like, on the way in which the world works. He then marries Eurynome, which is a Greek word that means something like distributed widely, and the Graces are born, which brings beauty into the world. Mnemosune is the next wife, from whom the Muses, so the arts, if you like, are born. And then we have Leto, who gives birth to the twin children Apollo and Artemis, who represent certain kinds of excellence in skills and arts as well. Apollo, music and healing, and Artemis, hunting and things to do with the night. Hera is the last wife, of course the wife that we're most familiar with as the wife of Zeus. And from her, Hebe, who is associated with marriage, and Eileithyia, who's the goddess of childbirth, and Ares, the god of war, come from that union. The theogony ends with a series of hookups or marriages or matings, both divine to divine and divine to human. Sort of not quite devolve into a list because it's all connected, but it turns into a big long list that is abruptly cut off. So we do not know if we have the theogony as it was supposed to end. I suspect we don't. It seems as if there was a continuation of the ways in which Zeus's rule continued into the heroic period, with marriages between gods and mortals. Zeus as a tyrant, right, is someone who exerts violence, right, who guarantees order and stability in the universe through the threat of violence, but who could be, in fact, good. So a tyrant in English is a word that's laden with a negative attitude. But in Greek, tyrannos really just means sole ruler, whose power is guaranteed through the threat of force. And a tyrannos can be good, that is, work for the common good, is not necessarily bad. But it is someone, right, whose rule is meant to be unchallenged, and who will only leave power through the violence of another. And so it's worth pondering, as we come back to our definition for the course, what is the consequence of this view of the universe for our human experience? If we're trying to get into the mindset of the Greeks and then of the Romans, into the mindset of how they view the place of human beings within the cosmos, right? How do we understand our place in the universe? It's worth pondering then at the end of the theogony how Hesiod began it. Right? So with the Muses inspiring him to share truths with his audience, what are the truths that the Muses share? Well, there are certainly some truths about the way in which the universe comes into being. Right? There might be truths in terms of what powers there are in the universe. But there's also a fundamental truth that's expressed about where human beings are within the order of the universe. So they exist at the pleasure of the gods. There are things they can do to gain the gods' favor, to gain the gods' attention. But in the end, they are part of the cosmos without power. And again, thinking about how this works within Hesiod's framework, right? Within the framework of Greek and Roman mythology, it will be central to our job moving forward, thinking about the human experience and the narrative interpretation of human experience that's spoken through other myths. One of the things that is really interesting about Greek myth, for me, is how it can be turned on its head if we look at it through different kind of lens. So the assignment that I have for you is to look at the theogony with a different lens, that is, with a different focus. And so our focus will be, for the assignment, on Gaia. Because the theogony, while it's a story about Zeus, is also the story about humans and their place in the universe. It's a story about Prometheus and his punishment. It's a story about the rise of the Titans and their fall. It's a story of lots of things. But it is also the story of Gaia and the role of Gaia in creation and in the ways in which Zeus comes into power. So we're going to take the theogony as a whole, but we'll focus only on the actions of Gaia and Earth. So what I want you to do is to take the text and scan through it and look for Gaia, or Earth with a capital E. When you find it, make a careful note of what Gaia is doing or whom she is supporting. Right? What is her role in that moment in the narrative? And what you're going to turn to me via Blackboard is a list, including the line numbers, of all these actions in the order they occur in the text. I think what you'll find is something pretty interesting, right? That Gaia is somehow involved or implicated in almost every major decision that leads to the benign rule, the rule of Zeus Turanos, not exercising violence anymore, but exercising his will on the universe. So what I want you to do, taking that list, right, you'll present that list with all the line numbers, but I also want you to answer the following questions in just a few sentences. What was Gaia's role in the creation of the universe until it came under the rule of Zeus? So all I want you to do is to articulate in a few sentences how you see the list working out in the theogony. That is, what does the list mean? What can we say that Gaia's significance was in the rise of Zeus into power? All right, so there'll be two things in the document that you turn in via Blackboard. You can turn it in as a PDF, which is what I prefer, or as a Word document. There'll be this long list of actions that Gaia has taken with line numbers indicated, and then a 2 or 3 sentence answer to the question that's on the screen. I hope that's clear. I will post the link. The link will be for the submission of the assignment, will be available until midnight on Monday. It would be preferable for you, I think, if you completed the assignment within the hour that we have of class. But if you want to put it off, or you would like to sleep a little bit more, or whatever you want to do with that hour that you've got that we would have met in class, that's all right by me. But at midnight, 11:59 on Monday, January 22nd, the link will disappear. And the thing you turn in via Blackboard, I'll look at those and it will count for your participation and attendance that day. All right, if there are any questions, please feel free to email me anytime. I will be looking at email through the day as I can, as I try to get a few things done here where I am. And I'll respond to any questions you might have about the assignment. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.